Hello everyone, this is CJ Novo 992 and today we're back for the brand new video, and today's video means it is finally, and I mean finally, time for me and thee to get back together and talk some football things as the international break is finally over. Before we go ahead and get lost in the shuffle of what is a fantastic tie coming up at the weekend between Rangers and Hearts, let's me and thee dive through and talk about the international break and figure out what players are on form, what players have been struggling, and what player unfortunately has came back to the football club injured, which is very massive. It could have a big impact on the old team. We've got a lot of things to break down and discuss today, so without any further ado, let's get into this. Starting off as always with the old home nation, that means we start off with Scotland and we talk about the wonder kid himself, Mr. Nathan Patterson. Now I'm going to be honest, coming into the very first game which he started versus Israel, after 45 minutes, it wasn't his greatest performance. I thought he struggled a lot. I think he was taking a lot of touches. I thought his passing was a little bit off. And then there was that incident early on in the game of football, after he should have had an assist, by the way, that Adams done a really poor finish. A couple of minutes later, he was down in the defensive areas. He takes a couple of more touches than he needs today. He loses the ball. And a lot of people are then foaming at the move because the ball ends up in the back of net. But a lot of people skipping over what happened between Patterson losing the ball and how the ball went into the back of net. That being Jack Hendry giving away a silly foul at the edge of the box, and then Jack Hendry scouring away, curling away and creating a big gap in the wall that the ball went in beyond, because if the wall just stood still and defended the way it should have, it would have hit off the wall and it wouldn't have been a problem. But again, loads of people were foaming at the mouth waiting to blame Nathan Patterson for that, but for me that's a lot of bollocks. If you know football, you know what happened and what led to the actual goal. But I want to talk about the second half for Nathan Patterson, because I think this goes underneath the radar, right? Because you talk about a young lad, he's only 19 years old, gone in starting international game. He just had a very poor 45 minutes. I didn't want to be sitting here saying that, but it was a poor 45 minutes. But now it's sink or swim time, right? Because he goes out in the second half, because it's very easy to try things and whip the ball in and play with your chest out and play football the right way when everything's gone your way. But it's very difficult. No many people can actually still play to that and still try and didn't hide when things aren't going your way. But what I saw for that laddie, honestly, in that second half was brilliant, because he kept battling and he started doing here, but he worked his way slowly but surely to eventually winning the late corner in the game that went ahead and won the actual match. And he really grew into it, and I'm so damn proud of him for that, because again, it's not going to be 10 out of 10s, it's about responding. And the young lad, he did that, and I'm so damn proud of him. Honestly, I'm sitting here like a proud dad going back and thinking about it and everything like that, because that shows you what a real player he actually is and the mental toughness that kid's got as well, because he is still only 19. But leading on to the second game versus Scotland, he was surprisingly dropped for Ryan Fraser at right wing back. Ryan Fraser, right wing back. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump to the 83rd minute, because surprisingly playing Ryan Fraser at right wing back out of position and playing in a defensive area led to absolutely nothing, and the game really was a slugfest. It was very boring. Scotland were pretty lucky not to be 3-0 down at one point, but they stayed in the game long enough. They went ahead and made the change in the 83rd minute to bring on the wonder kid Nathan Patterson, and within 3 minutes he went ahead and done what Ryan Fraser couldn't do for 83, and that's get wide, put yourself in a position and actually put in a very good cross. And it's a wonderful cross into the box. Yes, it takes a slight deflection off the defender, but that's still Nathan Patterson's wonderful assist, and that is Dykes' chest goal, which is his fourth as well, by the way. But Nathan Patterson comes on for Scotland when they need him the most. He provides the old spark, and he played a vital role in getting all 3 points for Scotland, which moves him second in the group as well. Fantastic from Nathan Patterson, and that right there will top off his week, right? Because it was a learning experience that for Scotland, the highs and the lows, because again, you're not always going to have highs in a career, and for the majority of his career so far it has all been highs. But that was a wee bit low in the first 45 minutes before a battling second half performance, and then he was there and rallied and answered the country's cry when it needed somebody to step up. So I'm buzzing for the laddie, and I'm sure he's going to be feeling good about himself coming back into the building, looking to challenge for that right spot. Now, of course, there was another Rangers player called up for Scotland, that was Mr. John McLaughlin, but he didn't play any minutes. So let's go ahead and jump over and let's go on a wee trip to the brothers from another mothers and catch up with Northern Ireland and speak about the one, the only Mr. Stephen Davis, who had yet another record-breaking weekend, because not only is he the most UK cap player of all time, but he now becomes the most capped Rangers player of all time. That is absolutely sensational, especially considering he's just 21 years old. Now, my Stephen Davis bias and all that to one side, unfortunately Northern Ireland couldn't get the job done, as Stephen Davis went ahead and played in both games, the 2-0 loss versus Switzerland and the comeback heartbreaking 2-1 loss to Bulgaria, which really did sting, ladies and gentlemen. But anyone looking into that performance, anyone who paid attention at the game will see Stephen Davis just done his thing, keeping things ticking along, got involved in a couple of wee tackles, winning the ball, springing the ball forward. Nobody can look at Northern Ireland's last 2 matches and disappointing matches. They weren't say Stephen Davis was poor or struggled. It was just his usual standard bearing self, ladies and gentlemen. Just unfortunately the team couldn't get the result that they wanted. Next up, we kind of pick up where we just left off about 30 seconds ago. If I'm honest, we're talking about Switzerland. As we mentioned, they bet Northern Ireland 2-0. Well, we've got a big Swiss still on the books by the name of Cedric. Getting his in was a 90th minute substitute versus Northern Ireland and an 89th minute substitute in the 4-0 hammering of Lithuania. Now, again, you might have noticed from what I've just said, there's not a lot to break down and a lot to discuss, as he wasn't really involved when he did. Come on, the game was kind of dead and buried and all that at one point. But the main thing to take away is he's back getting called up by the national team. That's good to see him back in the mix, as he obviously fell away from the national team when he was playing for us in the role he was playing. The manager's already been impressed with what he's done over in the Bundesliga, playing as a striker, not as a winger, and hopefully that continues and we see more of Big Sed the Ted playing for his national side. But I can't contain myself any longer, ladies and gentlemen. I'm like a kid at Christmas waiting to rip off the old wrapping paper and the old first present. So let's go ahead and dive over and speak about Hagi and Romania, because this one right here is absolutely sensational. And this is the magic that the international can break, because now everyone is talking about our boy Hagi, because not only did he have 2 very, very good performances, but he scored an absolutely incredible goal versus Germany that I'm pretty sure you've all seen now 55 times, but it deserves a 56, it deserves a 57, and onwards from there, because this goal right here is genuinely world class. Now, in case you haven't seen the goal, he picks the ball up from pretty much the halfway line. He drives at the Germany defence. He gets right into the box. He kind of does a wee step over, fakes the goal on his right foot, because again he is both footed. Then he cuts inside. He nutmegs the Champions League winner defender Rudiger, by the way, who is arguably one of the most informed defenders in the world right now. Absolutely rinses that laddie raw, opens the wee legs, pop the ball underneath, and then what does he do when he has the chance to have a shot? It absolutely rips a toe poke, ladies and gentlemen. The classic, the absolute old school belter right in to the back of net to give Ter Stegen absolutely no chance. Honestly, there's goosebumps coming right now thinking about that goal and thinking of the reaction and thinking the headlines that man has now made over international break. Now, unfortunately for Romania though, that goal that took the lead versus Germany wasn't actually able to go ahead and pick up all 3 points, because Hagi was actually withdrawn about the 60th minute of this game and Romania couldn't carry on. They lost that ball carry, they lost that bit of quality, and Germany ended up getting probably what they deserved for the game, and that's 2 late goals to come away with all 3 points. But Hagi equalled his performance versus Germany in my opinion, and he did in the second game. Now, he didn't again get a goal or anything like that, and he didn't score that world day, but his performance was still very good, and he was inches away, and what, to be fair, is an incredible save from the goalkeeper from ripping the back of the net apart with a wonderful free kick effort. But again, he was still there, he was still involved, and he was still a part of winning Romania's side, which if you've been watching this series for a long time, that wasn't happening when Hagi was on the outskirts looking in or anything. But now he's becoming a mainstay, he's becoming a focal point. They're really starting to pick up wins and looking very, very dangerous. Fantastic international break for our boy Hagi. Everyone's talking about him, everyone's excited about him, but guess what? He's our freaking star boy. But speaking of fresh though, that gives me the perfect transition over to Zambia to speak about our boy Fashion Sakala, because the last international break in the last roundup, he was obviously had that knock and he wasn't able to go and everything like that. It was quite a frustrating start to the season for Sakala, but again he was able to get back on the park and play football for the national side despite an overall disappointing game. Not only just him though, but the whole team. In the first match he really emerged in the second one, playing off that left hand side, which is something I spoke about a lot when Ryan Kent was actually out injured. Play Sakala where his natural position for the majority of his career was anyway, out to the left, and you can see why he's so dangerous when he's on the left hand side, because he absolutely rinses a couple of defenders. Honestly, he sends one of them to the shop and then he puts an ollie in doing it and just flings a 50p to go ahead and catch his pal onto the way to buy a pick and mix. Honestly, it was absolutely frightening. He drops 2 people and then just lifts the ball beyond the goalkeeper, giving him no chance. A wonderful effort to give Zambia the lead. It was just unfortunate the goal wasn't enough to win the actual game, as as they were pegged back late on and it ended up finishing 1-1. But that's good to see Sakala getting amongst the goals and continuing his development and recovery from that frustrating injury. The boy's ready to go as well, so that's even more options for the firepower at our football club. Now, as we went ahead and spoke about back-to-back players who scored on the old international scene from the Rangers perspective, let's go ahead and transition to speak about a player who played equally well without putting the ball into the back of net, which can be only one man himself, and that is of course Glenn Kamara, who just honestly done Glenn Kamara things. What did he get? An 8.2 and an 8 something as well in back-to-back games. Phenomenal overall performances again for Glenn Kamara. I'm sorry if you're getting bored of me saying this, but in the Finland shirt as well, he's got a little bit less defensive responsibilities and he's able just to go a wee bit further forward and really beat people and take people on. It's a joy to watch, honestly, in the Finland shirt. They couldn't get near him, even though it was a disappointing loss in the first game, which was a 2-1 loss to Ukraine. Kamara was still excellent in that game of football and he was just as good in the kind of routine win over Kazakhstan. But again, nobody could touch him, nobody could get near him. He was gliding, he was shining, he was skilling and thrilling. He was honestly just doing Glenn Kamara things. But where this video has mostly been all positive thoughts and positive vibes, it's time to talk about Nigeria, which brings the injury concern into the old question. So let's go ahead and speak about it then, shall we? Because for Nigeria, we had 3 players called up. We had Calvin Bassey, Joe Aribo and Mr. Leon Balogun. Now, unfortunately for Calvin Bassey, who received that call up and was excited, he was actually an unused substitute over the 2 games, but I'm sure he was just buzzing to be amongst it and get that kind of experience. I'm sure there'll be a lot of caps to come if he continues his development the way he's been going over the last year. Joe Aribo started both matches, which was quite a rarity for his time over in Nigeria, and he actually played pretty well, especially in the second match. The first match was one of those ones where I think the overall team didn't really perform, as it was a very disappointing loss, and you could tell that when you saw the fan reaction and everything like that online. But he was given another opportunity in the second game, and for me he really started to show what he was all about, and he wasn't actually subbed off in this game, as there were certain changes that happened in the game of football which meant Joe Aribo had to stay on the park, and he rolled his sleeves up and showed the grittier side of his game, which got a lot of praise and a lot of plaudits as well. And I think if you look at the reaction, what people are saying about Joe Aribo and everything like that, it's probably his best international break in terms of a couple of games for the Nigeria side since he made his opening 2 debuts when everyone fell in love with him. It's been kind of hit and miss overall so far, but for me he's starting to get on track, he's starting to look his dangerous self, and he's starting to get a lot of praise and a lot of plaudits. But let's go ahead and speak about a guy who always gets praise when he plays in the international scene, and that is Mr. Leon Balogun. Yes, he played obviously his part in the disappointing loss in the first game, the same with Joe Aribo, but he was a little bit unlucky in that game. But he was anything but unlucky in the second one, because he was scored an absolute scream dream of a goal to open the scoring, ladies and gentlemen. An almost casual Defoe-esque volley, that kind of touch volley, and if the ball gets chipped into him, and then you think for a centre half, oh, he's going to go for a big header, swing a big fit at it or something like that. But no, ladies and gentlemen, he just watches it and then casually taps it in with the right fit, giving the goalkeeper absolute no chance. And honestly, I popped like Stone Cold Steve Austin's glass just broke. I was up, I was like, oh my god, what a goal that is. By the way, I've got so many goals to speak about in international roundup, but unfortunately that good feeling and happiness and joy didn't last too much longer, because not long after opening the scorer in this game, Mr. Leon Balogun had to get withdrawn from the game with a grimace on his face, limping with a clear injury that genuinely made me go, no, not another one. However, ladies and gentlemen, despite a lot of clickbait articles out there and everything like giving you the inside scoops and etc., which is all pretty much guesswork, as far as I know, where I stand right today, filming today's video, Leon Balogun has a chance of making it versus Hearts. So that's right, the injury isn't anywhere near as serious. They kind of caught it pretty early. Hopefully the big man can run it off, and there's a chance that he'll be available for Hearts, which is absolutely massive, because we know how big this game is and how tough it's going to be. We want Balogun in there, we want him beside Connor Golson, which again, in my opinion, as I'm a glass half full type of guy, that's probably the best outcome we could have had when we watched him limp off the park in that way. For them to have a chance to make it makes me very, very happy. But let's move away from Nigeria then, because again, this video is probably going to be a crazy amount of time. There's barely anyone probably watching it still right now, but we'll wrap up today's video with a rapid fire catch up of Jamaica and Croatia. Speaking of Jamaica, we of course have to talk about Kamal Ruth, who thankfully was played as a striker, where I had a lot of problems last month where he was played as a left mid behind Antonio and Iacho, etc. He was played completely out of position, so he was played forward this time, which is good. However, it wasn't his best overall performance, where Jamaica really struggled to create any major opportunities as they went ahead and drew 0-0 with Canada. Kamal Ruth also picked up a silly booking. It wasn't a great overall performance, ladies and gentlemen, but it's good to see him actually being played where his best position actually is. And Jamaica actually play at 1:20 tonight versus Honduras, so if you want to watch a wee bit of football and you're going to be up late like I usually am, there's some football to watch at 1:20 AM. And last but not least, we have Croatia, which can only mean BB is back in the mixer. And that honestly just puts a smile on my face, because his redemption angle and his coming back to finding the form that we know he's capable of just continues, and he keeps getting little milestone after little milestone, as he was able to start Croatia's second match after kind of having an easy win over Cyprus. He went ahead and played Slovakia in the second game, which was by far their toughest game, and the Croatian manager looked to Barisic to step up there and play in the toughest match, which would have been a boost for his confidence. Now, the game finished 2-2, but it certainly wasn't down to Barisic's fault or anything. That was another very good performance in the Croatian shirt. It doesn't really have any poor ones, if I'm honest with you, but again, that was a big step, and that kind of belief from the international manager, I'm sure will have his chest out and he'll be feeling good himself, which can only bring good things for us, because when he's confident, he's as good as anyone, ladies and gentlemen, and I genuinely mean that. But that's it for the International Rangers Roundup. Apologies about the length of the video, but our team's that littered with so much quality and international talent, and these videos are a little bit longer than the 6-minute videos they used to be a couple of years ago, which again is a good sign of where we are going as a football club. But that's it, ladies and gentlemen, the international break is over. This is the International Rangers Roundup. I'll be back in a couple of days for the massive preview video versus Hearts, giving you the latest updates and everything when I hear it. But until then, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. That's been a Sleepy Rocky Boy Johnson. I've been Sieging over 92. Take care of yourselves, all the best, and bye-bye.